When Two Worlds Align, Soo Hyun and Kim Ji-won, a story the camera couldn't contain. The night Seoul seemed to hold its breath began like any other headlights slicing through rain, neon signs flickering like nervous confessions. Yet somewhere between a quiet studio corridor and a crowded premiere hall, something shifted. It wasn't announced. It wasn't staged. It was felt. Soo Hyun arrived with a kind of presence that makes rooms lean closer, his calm sharpened by years of stories lived on screen. Kim Ji-won followed moments later. Elegance effortless, her gaze steady as if she already knew the moment would find her. When their paths crossed, time didn't stop, it rearranged itself. Fans would later argue about the exact second it happened. Some swear it was the shared smile brief, almost private. Others insist it was the pause, that fraction of a heartbeat where neither moved away. Cameras flashed. Applause rose. But beneath the noise, there was a quieter current, a recognition that felt older than the night and braver than rumor. They had both played characters who carried wounds with grace, lovers who loved against the odds, souls that learned how to stand again. Perhaps that's why the air around them felt familiar, as if the stories they once told had decided to meet in real life. Soo Hyun spoke with that thoughtful warmth that turns interviews into conversations. Kim Ji-won listened with an intensity that made every word feel chosen. When she laughed, it wasn't loud, it was luminous. When he smiled back, it was as if a long road had finally curved towards something gentler. Backstage, the world narrowed. A staff member passed with a clipboard. Someone adjusted a microphone. A producer whispered about schedules. And yet, the two stars stood as if framed by a different lens, one that blurred the edges and sharpened the truth. Their conversation drifted from work to memory, from scripts to the quiet places between scenes where actors breathe and become themselves again. There was no performance here. Just ease. Just curiosity. Just that rare sense of being understood without explanation. The internet, of course, noticed. It always does. A clip looped endlessly, him stepping aside to let her pass, her glance returning to him like a promise not yet spoken. Headlines bloomed overnight, speculation dressed in certainty, questions asked louder than answers. But the most compelling evidence wasn't a gesture or a quote. It was the atmosphere. The way the rooms seemed to lean into them, the way silence felt warmer when they shared it. Days later, they found themselves in the same rehearsal space, a coincidence that felt like design. The script on the table was new, the characters unformed. As they read, something unexpected happened. Lines landed deeper. Pauses grew meaningful. A scene meant to be simple carried a weight no one had planned. The director noticed. So did the crew. There are partnerships that elevate craft, and then there are partnerships that feel inevitable, as if the story had been waiting for the right voices. Kim Ji-won brought a steadiness that grounded every moment. Her strength wasn't loud, it was reliable. Soo Hyun answered with nuance, his expressions catching light like water. Together, they built scenes that breathed moments where love wasn't rushed and pain wasn't wasted. Between takes, they shared quiet jokes, a mutual respect that softened the long hours. When the cameras rolled again, the connection followed, seamless and sincere. Outside the studio, fans gathered with signs and theories, weaving narratives from glances and timing. Some spoke of destiny. Others cautioned patience. Both sides agreed on one thing. Whatever this was, it felt real. Not perfect. Not polished. Real in the way it lingered. Real in the way it didn't need explanation. There was a night shoot by the river, the city reflected in ripples of light. The scene demanded vulnerability, two characters standing at the edge of choice. As the wind moved across the water, Kim Ji-won took a breath and stepped into the moment. Soo Hyun met her there, eyes steady, voice low. When the scene ended, no one spoke for a beat too long. Applause followed, spontaneous and honest. Art had crossed into something intimate, and everyone felt it. Later, wrapped in coats against the cold, they shared tea from paper cups. Conversation wandered again, this time toward the future roles they hoped to play, stories that scared them a little. He spoke about wanting to choose projects that mattered. She talked about growth, about honoring complexity. Their dreams didn't compete, they aligned. The city hummed, indifferent and eternal, while two paths quietly considered running alongside each other. Weeks passed. Interviews continued. Schedules tightened. Yet the thread remained. A message here. A shared recommendation there. Support offered without spectacle. When asked directly, both smiled with care, neither confirming nor denying, protecting the space where something honest could exist without pressure. It was a masterclass in grace, how to let curiosity live without feeding the fire. At an awards ceremony, fate tested the rumor mill again. They were seated rows apart. When his name was called, he stood, composed as ever. As applause rose, his eyes found hers, and she nodded once, a small, steady affirmation. When she later took the stage, he returned the gesture, pride unhidden. The crowd noticed. The cameras noticed. The moment felt complete in itself. What makes a story endure isn't the noise around it, it's the quiet truth within it. Kim Soo Hyun and Kim Ji-won didn't need grand declarations or dramatic reveals. Their story, whatever shape it ultimately takes, thrives on subtlety, on shared values, on the courage to let connection be what it is before naming it. In a world hungry for certainty, they offered something rarer, sincerity without spectacle. Whether as collaborators who elevate each other's craft or as two people discovering something meaningful at the right pace, their alignment felt earned. It echoed the themes audiences have loved in them for years: resilience, tenderness, hope that grows slowly and lasts. As the season changed, so did the light. New projects were announced. New characters waited. And somewhere between premieres and practice rooms, two stars continued to move with intention, aware that the best stories don't rush their endings. They let moments settle. They let trust build. They let the camera capture what it can, and they keep the rest for themselves. Because when two worlds align, you don't need to shout it. You feel it in the pauses, in the glances, in the way the night seems to listen. And long after the headlines fade, that feeling remains, steady as a promise, waiting for the next scene to begin. The first moment didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling, it expanded. After that night, whispers followed them through corridors and waiting rooms, curling around coffee cups and call sheets. It was always the same question, unspoken but loud. Did you feel it too? Kim Soo Hyun felt it in the way his steps slowed whenever he knew she was nearby, as though the world had quietly adjusted its pace. Kim Ji-won felt it in the calm that settled over her, a strange certainty that made unfamiliar spaces feel briefly like home. Their schedules collided again, not by plan but by timing that felt suspiciously precise. A script reading, a charity event, a shared hallway where neither expected the other. Each encounter added a layer, building on that first night like a story refusing to remain a single chapter. Their conversations stayed light on the surface work, weather, the chaos of filming, but underneath ran something deeper, an unhurried curiosity neither tried to name. One afternoon, they found themselves waiting backstage longer than expected. The room was quiet, lit by a single warm lamp. Kim Soo Hyun leaned against a table, scanning his phone before setting it aside. Kim Ji-won sat nearby, hands folded, eyes thoughtful. Silence stretched, but it didn't feel awkward. It felt intentional, as if both understood that not every moment needed filling. "Do you ever feel," she said finally, voice soft, "like some roles find you at the right time?" He looked up, surprised by the honesty, then smiled. "Only the ones that change you." That was the moment something shifted. Not dramatically, no sudden confessions, no cinematic swell of music, but subtly, like a door opening inward. From then on, their exchanges carried more weight. A look lasted longer. A laugh lingered. Every shared space felt charged with possibility. The media noticed the pattern before either of them did. Photos surfaced, never scandalous, never staged. Just proximity. Standing close during group shots. Leaning in during conversations. Walking out of venues within minutes of each other. Fans replayed clips frame by frame, turning seconds into theories, smiles into speculation. Yet the truth was quieter than the headlines suggested. The truth lived in the details. It was in the way Soo Hyun listened when Kim Ji-won spoke, his attention unwavering, as if nothing else existed beyond her words. It was in how she remembered the smallest things. He mentioned a favorite director, a line from a script that stayed with him. These were not gestures made for an audience. They were habits forming naturally, without intention. During rehearsals, their chemistry deepened, without effort. Scenes flowed easily, emotions landing where they were meant to. Directors didn't need to give many notes. The connection translated on screen with a realism that felt lived in, almost intimate. Crew members exchanged knowing looks, sensing something rare unfolding in front of them. But off-camera, boundaries remained carefully respected. They understood the cost of exposure, the weight of assumptions. So they chose patience. They chose privacy. In doing so, they allowed the connection to grow without interference, rooted in mutual respect rather than public expectation. One evening, after a long day of filming, they walked out into the city together. No entourage, no flashing lights, just the low hum of traffic and the cool air settling around them. They stopped at a quiet corner cafe, the kind no one would think to search. Over warm drinks, conversation drifted again, this time toward dreams left unspoken. Kim Ji-won talked about wanting to tell stories that stayed with people long after the credits rolled. Soo Hyun spoke about legacy, about choosing depth over noise. Their words mirrored each other in unexpected ways, like two perspectives drawn toward the same horizon. When they parted that night, neither lingered too long. Neither rushed away. A simple goodbye, sincere and unforced, carried more meaning than dramatic farewells ever could. That was the essence of part one of their story, not fireworks, but embers. Not declarations, but direction. A connection built on timing, understanding, and restraint. Something forming quietly in a world that thrives on spectacle.